Good afternoon and welcome to our third Thursday Business Builder. I think most of you know me. My name is Blair Marvin. I'm the Vice President of the Augusta Metro Chamber of Commerce, and we're really pleased to have you joining us virtually today. We've been fortunate enough to continue this monthly webinar series virtually, and this is an opportunity to provide relevant and timely information from experts in our business community to help keep your businesses thriving and engaged during this time. So today we have the pleasure of a group of panelists that have joined us. We have Tripp Harrison, who is the Senior Vice President of Hospitality for Goodwill Industries of Middle Georgia and the CSRA. We have Tom DeBruzio, who is the owner of BrandStorm Promotions. And we have Rachel Romero, who is the Customer Experience Center Director at T-Mobile. And they are presenting today on high touch and a no touch environment. They are going to talk a little bit about one of the key elements is to delivering your best is to not lose sight of the strengths that you have and being able to leverage those in a different way. We will also touch on ways to communicate with your customers and potential customers in a highly visible way. And then finally, we will conclude the presentation with advice on continuing to represent your brand and service despite the different ways that everyone may be doing business and operating. So thanks so much again for joining us. We look forward to this presentation. I've asked each presenter to say a little bit about themselves and about the business they're representing today before we kick off the program formally. So Tripp, if you'll start us off.
Absolutely. Good afternoon, everybody. Tripp Harrison here. We lead Edgar's Hospitality Group, which is part of Helms College and Goodwill. And, obviously it faced the challenges that everybody else has in a lot of ways, especially in the hospitality side, given the fact that a lot of our restaurants operations were completely shut down for a while, and then trying to figure out how we come back to it. Yeah, so it's been quite a challenge, but we're starting to see some light at the end of the tunnel, and love to share how we've kind of dealt with some of the things and the approaches we've taken. So thank you for having me, Blair.
Thanks. Tom?
No problem. I am Tom DeBruzio. I'm the owner of BrandStorm Promotions, and we specialize in customized promotional products and apparel. Basically, we work with businesses and nonprofits, promoting their brand, helping them with staff apparel, thank you gifts for clients and employees, and then also with nonprofits, we help them with their fundraising efforts. So we've definitely seen a change with COVID. A lot of events are some of our bread and butter, so that we've kind of had to adjust on the fly. But hopefully we can share some ideas for you to promote your brand during this time.
Thanks, Tom. Rachel?
Hello, good afternoon. My name is Rachel Romero, and I'm the Customer Experience Center Director for T-Mobile, the second largest telecommunications company in the country. I am also, more specifically, I lead 900 of the finest customer service advocates in the Augusta area, taking care of specifically our Atlanta and greater Georgia markets, as well as New York. So I am excited to be here to share with you guys how we utilize and leverage our culture to drive outstanding customer experiences. So thank you.
Thanks again to all three of you for being a part of the program and for sponsoring today's event. As you all can see, you're in for a treat. We've got some great experts to share some advice and depart some wisdom for how to operate high touch and a no touch environment. So at this time, I'm going to turn it over to Tripp to kick off our program. Thank you.
Thanks, Blair. Yeah, so really focusing on the the key elements to delivering our best, not losing sight of what strengths you have in your business. I mean, it's definitely a challenge in any normal day, but certainly in the middle of a pandemic. Again, as I touched on earlier, we have quite a few different business lines, but in particular, I lead our hospitality operations, and just really trying to navigate how to because we obviously are a very high touch organization, given that people are coming in to, to have a good time and dine and drink with us, and, just trying to navigate and figure out how to do that the right way. It's a couple different things. It's trying to figure out, how do you reconnect with our guests? How do you leverage technology? How do you do things like that? and really scratching my head on how do we support our customers in a very meaningful, human, and relevant way. Because at the end of the day, people want to connect. People want to know that you're there for them. And so I was doing a little bit of research prior to this, and came across a recent survey from PricewaterhouseCoopers that found 59% of those surveyed felt that many companies had lost touch with connecting with them. 75% of them rated this as a top preference when dealing with the company, now more than ever as people are isolated, right? So you've got to figure out how do you leverage the strengths that you have, which, for some of you may be product, some of you may be service, and bring it to the people or get them aware of what's going on. What customers care about most, or care most about is really shifting right now. So, in the past, it used to be companies with the best price, companies with the coolest product, or perhaps the most slick marketing promotion, or were the ones that you were going after. Reality is that that's likely not going to be the case anymore, or they're no longer going to have the upper hand. Those organizations that really focus on, I'd say, exhibiting, empathy, emotional intelligence, really focused on, communicating with care, which, Tom will touch on in a little bit, being honest about where your company is and what you're doing and how you're there for them. And really building trust, and making sure that, they know that you're going to do the right thing. You're there to support them in whatever your business is. And quite frankly, are you seeking to help them? How are you trying to help them? In my case, in hospitality, it's how do I help them have a good time and, kind of forget about, some of the stresses in life, because most folks come to a restaurant to have fun. They don't come here to have a bad time, right? And how do you do it in a awkward environment where you've got, table spacing and servers completely covered up and, things like that. So it's, it's really just connecting with them and being patient and showing them that. How do we make sure that our outreach is authentic, and you wanted to make sure it feels that way? There were some back when the pandemic was in the beginning phases. I'm the senior vice president of our group, but I was doing videos. If you guys saw on our Facebook post, I would actually go back. I'm in the kitchen and having a blast, and I'm authentically connecting with them. It wasn't staged by any means. I genuinely wanted to be back there to support my team that we were able to put back to work, and show people that, hey, we're here for you still. We care about you. All hands on deck, whatever it can, to be able to serve you wherever you are. One of the things we did was leverage technology. That was something that we really hadn't done. And our Edgar's Grill is really more of an upscale restaurant. And typically, to go is not our bread and butter or wheelhouse. Usually a steak doesn't travel very well. So we had to quickly pivot and figure out a way to develop a product that was in alignment with what our guests were wanting, but also how do we leverage the technology? And so we quickly, some local partners, Augusta to Go, not to plug them necessarily, but they were a great partner of ours that really helped us kind of leverage our, connection and ability to order the to go program and have it delivered even. So we did that. Coming back now that we're back open, we're looking at things like digital menus, digital feedback systems. Things like that to make it even more, guest friendly, where they feel safe, which is the most important thing. Safety. I think that's probably the biggest thing in the hospitality industry that we've done. And kind of not really a funny thing, but kind of a neat fact is that, hospitality industry was already doing most of the stuff that we are being required to do now. Really the new deal is less tables and face coverings, washing your hands and, for reporting whether you were ill or anything like that. That was pretty much our standard already. So, some other businesses are going to have to adapt to that because it's a little foreign. But whatever it is that you're doing, whatever measures that are being required of you, being sure to communicate to your guests and your customers what it is that you're doing. Be very, very clear to let them know that they're coming into an environment. You're creating an environment that is safe as possible. And being another thing too, I think being a creative problem solver. So, in our world, we had folks coming to us in the hospitality business. I'm still getting married. That stuff's still happening, right? I'm still retiring. I'm still doing whatever it is that I'm doing, and I want to celebrate somehow. But, between the government restrictions or, just a genuine concern for their guests, here's my problem, what's your solution? So being very, very creative about how you handle that, how you provide a solution for them, and you know what, at the end of the day, they're going to be a partner for life with you. They're going to come back to you every time, right? And so, you know, really, really being that creative problem solver. Additionally, you know, take a look at your business model, right? Whatever it is, look at it and look at ways that, you know, what other additional features and benefits can you offer to your guest or customer, right? You know, what's a different service model that you can add? You know, we saw a lot of people, I'm sure you all did in the industry, that all of a sudden started selling hand sanitizer. You know, started selling things that, you know, whatever they could to get some revenue going, which is creative. Be very careful, and I caution you on that, is to you know, not to talk out of both sides of my mouth, but be very creative, but at the same time, balance it with sticking with your core. You know, if you start chasing things that are just way far left, it'd be like if I decided I wanted to go start manufacturing weed eaters, right? I may be able to make a couple of bucks for a while, but eventually, you know, that's not my wheelhouse. So, figuring out your core, you know, knowing your core business and where can you grow, and looking at industry resources such as the chamber and others, you know, to figure out ways that you can kind of expand upon what you're doing to be there for your guests or customers. Also, during all this, don't lose sight of your social purpose and activities that you're doing. I mean, I know that's difficult with whether your staff shortage, whether your capital shortage, whatever it is, to keep your head above water. Keep that in mind when you're going about your business planning and your business activities, because that's still there. Society is still here, and they need you now more than ever. You know, and not only yourself or your employees, but also the community. And so people are going to recognize those who have the ability and put the effort into stepping up, and whatever that means, right? And so keep in mind of that. You know, another important piece too that's a strength, you know, especially in our world in the hospitality business, is we care about our guests, right? But we also need to show equal care to our team, right? Because they're also nervous. You know, all my folks that go to work every day in our restaurant operations, they're on the front line. They are standing right there next to somebody who we trust or hope is reporting themselves or making sure that they're being careful and taking the measures they're supposed to. And they're doing it willingly. And, you know, so making sure that you got their back, making sure that you're letting them know you're there for them and you're going to support them and whatever that looks like, right? And especially showing empathy at this time. You know, and at the end of the day, I'll kind of close with this, you know, keep in mind that the impact and actions you take today are very, very likely going to outlast this pandemic. And they're going to define the loyalty to the people who love your brand and your products. So, you know, take this time. This is such a great opportunity. It's a challenge. Don't get me wrong. I don't want to dismiss that, but there's such a unique opportunity to really shift gears and come out of this on the other side 10 times better and 10 times stronger for the greater good of your organization and the community that we serve. So with that, I'll turn it back over to Blair. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Tripp. I love what you said about how during this time, it's really going to define who you are and how you're seeing your brand as we come out of this, and not looking at this time as just being an isolated event or being a pandemic in and of itself, but using it to leverage yourself for future success and position yourself to where you want to be as we come out of this. And I think some of the other things that struck me was the authentic outreach, just genuinely showing the empathy, being a partner with your customers, with your vendors. I think all of us have had to leverage technology and learn more than we may have ever wanted to or thought we would. But again, the new normal, now we're all better prepared and able to adapt. And then to your point about problem solving too, I think we've all honed our skills and finding different ways to doing things, different ways to communicate. And it's all about being adaptable and being able to leverage your strengths, like you mentioned. And so to that point about communicating with customers and vendors, I will turn it over to Tom DeBruzio to share a little bit about that. Tom?
Thank you, Blair. And of course, I have to be difficult and share screen since I am doing a PowerPoint. So I'll pull that up. All right. So Tripp touched on some of these things. So I'm here to talk about how you can balance your brand awareness during all these safety and health protocols that you need to implement for your business. And we've seen a lot of this stuff already. You know, Georgia was fortunate to open up earlier than most parts of the country, but as businesses have reopened across the CSRA and the country, owners are adjusting to this new way of conducting business. And this includes balancing health concerns and safety while still maintaining your business, providing goods and services, whether it's a restaurant, a doctor's office, whatever it may be. So by taking these additional steps to communicate your policies and limiting contact, you're letting your customers know that they can trust you and still keep them safe during this time. With these new changes that your business is facing, we are finding many ways to still present your message in a clear and professional way that is consistent with your brand. So we saw early on, a lot of businesses had to adjust quickly, put up paper signs stating some of the, whether masks is required, or putting duct tape down to note where 6 feet of social distancing is. But now there's ways that you can still do these and still promote your brand, still promote your awareness of what you're providing as a business, but also match your brand colors. You don't have to have a silver duct tape on the floor. You can have branded items to kind of show where people can stand and make sure that it's consistent with your message. So some of these things, again, we all know a lot of these things, preparing your facility for this new normal, as we like to say. So you want to make sure first that you're meeting all the federal and state and local guidelines, and especially if you're industry specific. I know a restaurant and tattoo parlors are different than a law firm. So you want to make sure that you meet all that. So when you do measure and mark out 6 feet of separations on your production floors, your work areas, or your lobbies, there's lots of options that we offer, like floor decals, to kind of denote where you can stand. You can do this inside and outside of your facility. One of the first places I went to, it was a UPS store, drop off a package, and there was no clear message of where to stand. In fact, they were limiting the number of people in the store. And if you didn't look carefully, there was a little sign on the window saying, no more than 5 people in the store, but it wasn't really visual. So you want to make sure it's visual. If you have a lot of clutter on your windows and doors already, maybe take a sidewalk sign. Another thing to do to prepare your facility is changing the flow of workplace traffic, whether it's in and out into your building, walking around the production floor, whatever it might be. So you can utilize things like door wraps and more floor decals or banners and signs to kind of direct the flow of traffic in your workplace. Obviously, we've seen a lot of these waiting rooms and lobbies where you're not allowed to sit next to each other. Sometimes you'll see yellow caution tape marking off those areas, or tape. Just simple things like a seat cover can identify where you can't sit, but also you can include additional protocols on there, whether it's washing your hands or maybe just a brand message. So just an additional thing to kind of not just close off seating area, but also promote certain protocols or measures that you want to kind of install. We've seen a lot of people with who are handy creating plexiglass protection covers, at their counters and reception desks. There's a lot of branded options, but if you went ahead and created one on your own, why not do a little branding with it? You could use a decal or stickers to kind of put your message on there as well. But you want to make sure you have those set up in your facility. Place barriers between workstations that are less than 6 feet apart. And one thing, you don't have to reinvent the wheel. With a lot of events canceled, you might have floor displays that are sitting in the closet, retractors that aren't being used because you're not going to trade shows or events. Pull them out of the closet, separate them, use them in the waiting rooms to kind of create those additional spaces and promote the social distancing that's needed and keep your employees and customers safe. So another thing you want to do is keep an eye on health. So obviously, we've seen people wearing face masks. You want to make sure that you provide face masks for your staff. Again, this is another branding opportunity, whether it's branded colors or just putting your logo on it. But keep extra on hand for your customers, whether it's a disposable one, non-branded, or if you want to kind of hand out branded ones so that you can walk around town promoting your brand, that's a great opportunity. You want to make sure you set up a resource center for your employees so they know, but again, don't just use, printed copy paper. You can get nice large posters to hang up in your break rooms, hang them up in your waiting room so everyone knows what they need to do to kind of keep safe and what your policies are. And then again, matching your brand awareness, brand colors, and making sure everyone knows what you're looking for and how you're gonna want to keep them all safe. So how can you keep an eye on health? Obviously, you want to clearly state your occupancy limits in the waiting rooms and conference rooms, break areas. You don't want to have too many people in your break area, or if you are like limiting the number of people in your waiting room, you make sure outside the waiting room there's a sign that says no more than 5 people. Please wait here until then. We should touch on it earlier. Hand sanitizer. You want to be able to have hand sanitizer as people walk in, whether it's stations or even just having a basket at the check-in desk with a bunch of personalized hand sanitizer that people can take and use and have them be able to, again, be safe, but also promote your brand during this time. Again, Tripp talked about this a little bit earlier, and we've seen it, with the restaurant business with, curbside check-in, but you're going to be limiting the number of people in your facility. Communicate that openly. Obviously, if you have an email list, you can email out to people. Social media is a great way to promote that. But when they show up to your facility, make sure you have that clearly noted in front of your facility, whether you're doing posters or sidewalk signs, whatever it might be. You want to make sure that they know that you have certain policies of checking in. Also schedule office visits by appointment only if you need to limit the number of people coming in. If you are doing cashless payment options, promote that. Put window decals on your door so as they enter, they know that they don't have to, do a credit card payment, there. They can do it online. Again, if you're designating any sort of pickup areas, whether it's, again, for restaurants or even just other services that you're doing pickup areas, have those designated clearly. You can match your branding, promote your logo, and make sure that's clearly noted so customers know where to go and park. And then if you are handing out products, to ensure safety, touchless options, you can use branded decals and stickers to kind of, seal off the packaging so they know that no one else has touched this or opened it before they received it. Promotional products industry is very adaptable. This is, I never knew I would be selling face masks and face shields and all sorts of crazy stuff that we've been selling over the past 5 months or so. And one of the new things that came up are these touch-free tools that people are attaching to their keychains. And it's just another new way of limiting contact. So this could be something where you can hand out to your employees inside the office, especially if you're in a high rise or you have a lot of keypads, something that you can have with them so they can limit the amount of contact amongst your employees. But also it makes a great gift to hand out to your employees and have that available for them to use. And again, another great branding opportunity. Another thing we've seen, pens, it's a running joke in our industry that it's the most widely stolen office item in the workplace. And with either everyone going remote or people not wanting to touch other people's stuff, that's changed. So the industry has adapted and they're promoting Keep the Pen, keep your own pen initiative, and just letting customers know that they don't have to worry about that 5, 10, 100 people have already touched the same pen as they sign in. So one thing is you can have the pens readily available and have a little sign saying once you sign in, keep it, it's yours to go. Stylus pens are becoming popular again because of touch screens. So if you want to use those as a sign-in and let them keep it, that's a great way to do that. Cellophane wrap pens are also a new option, so they know that no one else has touched it since it's already in a wrapped container. And then now more and more pens are being made with antimicrobial agents to limit the growth of bacteria, mold, mildew, and fungi. So again, there's a lot of different ways that you can keep your customers safe and still provide brand awareness for your business. And that's what I got. The most important thing is, you want to be consistent and just, find ways to promote your brand, but also make sure that your message is clear and that your customers know what you are trying to accomplish, and they're keeping them safe. And I will end my screen save so you guys can.
Thank you so much for that, Tom. I'll have to say, those touch-free tools, that was new to me. I don't know if I've been just in my own world, but I had not seen or heard or known about that. So that was interesting. And just personally too, the "We Are Open" signs have been huge for me, because I'll be driving down the road and that'll catch my attention. And that's just been a huge help to know what is and isn't open. So there's so many different ways, like Tripp was saying, about emerging out of this even stronger and better with more customer loyalty, to include, taking an opportunity to really hone the brand and find different ways to get it out there in the community through the various ways that you discussed, Tom. So thank you for that.
No
So
problem.
Rachel's going to bring it all together for us and talk about ways to still deliver that customer service, and not just branding with promotional items or externally, but internally and within your culture with your employees, being the brand and representing the brand to the best of your ability during this different way of operating. So Rachel.
Thank you. So this transition to the new normal and work from home has been kind of wild, especially with us having such a large workforce. So I have about 900 people in my call center, and our first priority was getting them home and safe. And so we packed up all the computers, all these desktop computers, sent everybody home. And as soon as we got them home and safe, we said, oh my gosh, how do we continue to execute at the same level as we would when we were in the call center? And how do we keep the culture, which we're so famous for, alive? For us, it's a lot about the environment that we're in. Taking calls and working in customer service is a really hard job, right? Because people don't call customer service to be like, hey, you're doing a great job, we love you. They call because they're having a problem that they need you to resolve. And so, we spend a lot of time thinking about, how do we make sure that our team is, they're still being engaged within our culture. They're still representing our brand. They're focused in on, when they talk to customers, navigating through their own lives in order to solve the problem that the customer has on the line. And, living out the strategic, the vision of T-Mobile to be #1 in customer minds and hearts. And so, for a couple of things, I'm supposed to, talk about training and how we are training our people to maintain our brand. And so I'll tell you, with our current employees, we're lucky and fortunate enough that they're all brand advocates. And that has started from the moment that they've walked in the door. It's been really about maintaining that and making sure that they have the tools and resources to continue. And then I'll also talk about, we actually started our first new hire class. And so how do we get them bought into the brand so that they, can articulate what we're about when they're talking to our customers, but also take them through the whole training process without even being there with them, without being accessible immediately. And so, yeah, it's kind of wild. So I'll share with you guys, with our current employees, it came down to a couple of things. It's how we're recognizing and celebrating their work that they're doing on the day-to-day and making it fun. Because if you're not engaged as a frontline employee who's talking to our customers, you're not going to be able to provide the level of experience that our customers are needing. And so in the call center, you know, you could go up and high five someone and celebrate them and have a confetti cannon or a clap in. You guys are probably like, what are all these things? We have a lot of fun and play a lot of music and celebrate a lot of things. And so we really had to like transition a little more to you know, webinars and different online meetings, and you know, and even taking it further to like, hey, how do we have Slack parties in our new communication medium where it's an emoji party and we celebrate somebody's success? Or we actually spent last month driving a couple days out of last month, not the whole month, driving to people's homes and putting signs in their yard that said that they were top performers and they had celebrated a milestone. And so, you know, from a cultural perspective, we've been able to keep them continuously engaged. The other part of it is, if you are not consistently communicating the value proposition of your brand and what's happening in your organization, you can quickly lose your employees. And so we have had to transition how we do that, because we lost the face-to-face communication. And, you know, in sales, they say that a customer needs to hear about a brand like 7 times before they actually buy it. Or is bought into it right before they purchase it. And so for us, we also use that methodology in like how we communicate what's happening in the business. And so we have gone to so many different mediums in order to keep our employees like up to speed on what is happening in the organization, our new products and services. And so it's everything from, you know, jumping on meetings to making videos and posts on social media, email blasts. We have webcasts and town halls. I mentioned it before, we utilize a communication platform called Slack, where every team has their own channel, and it's not just about celebrations, but it's also about information and keeping our team, you know, focused on what they need to do next. We have multiple training platforms, such as they're called Cornerstone or Thrive, where they actually log in and they go through like a web-based module. And then of course in person, I say in person, but it's like virtual in person, video, coaching and training. And so we have had to pivot and do so many different things with like how we make sure that they have the information in order to get them to our customers. So when it comes to our new hires, now they're not brand advocates, right? Like they're coming in for the first time, and when we're in the building, our new hires get this immersive experience right when they come in the door. On day one, they walk in and there is 100 people in the hallway clapping and cheering and playing music and celebrating them. And we're going in and talking about our core values and who we are as an organization, and letting them know that, you know, for us, the front line comes first because our customers come first, and they're the ones who take care of our customers. And so, and for me, my job is to take care of them. And so I'm able to have those, you know, conversations where I tell them, this is what we do as an organization. And not that we can't have it, it's just different. It looks different when we're doing it virtually, when you're not able to have that face-to-face human contact with them. And so we have done a couple of different things to help get them to a place where they're also learning about the culture without actually being in the building. On day one, we had a virtual or drive-through clap-in. So we had them come up, and we had, you know, yard signs out there. We all walked through the parking lot with our masks on, ringing bells and playing music and dancing around their cars. It was, I'm sure you're picturing it like, what the heck is she even saying? But it was fun, and it let them know, hey, we're out here, we're ready to be silly, we're ready to do what it takes in order to get you bought into what we're about and what our value proposition is, so that you can go and take care of our customers. So we've also done a number of different things with them. Like I said, virtual dance parties. It might take a break when training gets too challenging and say, hey, let's all take a mental break and have a little dance party, put on our cameras and our music and be a little crazy. Have guest speakers from our operations floor talking to them about their experiences, sharing with them, hey, all of the things that they're able to do at T-Mobile to not only like grow in their career, but also to, grow as people too, right? Like going back to school and getting their finances in order and leveraging our benefits. And then of course, virtual team builders to keep them together, keep the unity alive. And so, we have had to drastically change the way in which we communicate, which in turn plays into how we take care of our customers and are able to provide a consistent brand experience. And so, yeah, it comes down to communication and driving culture. And if you do those things really effectively, your people are going to work hard and do great and communicate your value proposition effectively to your customers. So that's back to you, Blair.
All right, well, that was great information, and I can't even imagine managing 900 remote people. So kudos to you and your team and all the changes that you've made to be able to still serve your customers effectively. I feel like the resounding theme kind of through all of this was keeping engagement up, whether it's with your employees and with your customers and the business community, and taking the time to do things that you might not have otherwise had time to do to build your brand and to build that loyalty and to give back in the community. And so that was just something that I felt like was really a resounding theme throughout the presentation. We do have a couple of questions, but if anyone would like to ask a question of our panelists, you can use the Q&A function of Zoom and submit that question, and we will ask those in addition to the ones that we have already received. But Tripp, you touched on this a little bit, but the question comes within, utilizing your strengths. Is there some type of tool or assessment or some kind of system that you all use or that you would recommend for someone that's really trying to assess, exactly what are the strengths that I can leverage during this time? I think we all have a good understanding of our strengths, our weaknesses as we're operating on a regular basis. But when something like this comes at us, a lot of times we have to step back and reassess and evaluate. And what is a good tool, or what's your advice in doing that kind of analysis?
Yeah, absolutely. Great question. I don't know a definitive tool because every business is so different. There's not really probably one tool that can help either way. I think a lot of it is, to your point, Blair, is to first step back and take assessment of the marketplace and what the market's need is, as well as what are your capabilities now and in the future, and can it be ramped up. I think another great advice, something that I did, leverage your network. The folks that think differently than you, that aren't personally or emotionally attached to the business. These are individuals that can be your mentors. They can be people from your Sunday school class. They can be people from whatever network that you have that is going to come and give you a fresh angle or fresh approach that often you wouldn't be thinking about. I think those are probably the simplest tools and ways that you can really explore, have some help understanding, how do I pivot? What do I do? How do I get there, kind of thing. And then once you get that feedback, obviously you want to vet it a little bit, but then you can start to develop a plan to go forward and to give it a run. Because again, I think in this day and age, don't be afraid to try something, and don't wait too long, because things will pass you by pretty quickly. So that would be my advice on that question.
Yeah, that's a great point, to get an outsider's perspective. It's so difficult to keep from having tunnel vision, especially during a time that is unexpected and uncertain. So to be able to have someone to come in with a fresh view and provide that perspective is definitely a great point. So the next one that we have is for Tom, referencing branded materials. So is there a universal item or like kind of a go-to thing that you're seeing the most, a trend that people are using to best communicate with customers, something that you've seen that's been effective?
Um, Signs are probably the best. I mean, that's just been the most consistent. You know, and obviously sign is a very large encompassing area. So, I mean, that could be, you know, like I mentioned earlier, sidewalk signs, you know, the street flags that you see promoting whatever your, you know, situation is for your business. But it also could be, you know, smaller banners and signs that you have inside your office. That tends to be, you know, the biggest thing that we're seeing to help communicate what your message is to your customers and to your employees. But that answers the question if that's what they were looking for. But yeah, I would say anything sign related, you know, is you know, been the biggest thing that we've seen.
Great. And let's see, one more, last one. Rachel, I'll let you take this one. Is there anything as far as the changes that you have implemented that you foresee T-Mobile will continue to do moving into the future under this new normal? Or do you anticipate getting back to fully operational as was traditional at one point?
That's actually a great question. So one of the things that was made us a little bit nervous about going to this work from home model was that we operate a little bit unconventionally within our call center in a format called Team of Experts, where every customer is part of what we call a community. So you'll always be routed to the same group of people. You'll always, you won't be transferred. You won't experience, you know, an IVR. And part of the magic of what that was is that if like you're calling me about your account, but you actually also needed technical help, I have that person sitting next to me. I could tap them on the shoulder, say, hey, can you help out this customer? And then you could come back to the same person and not talk to 500 people, which traditionally the experience. And so we had never, you know, even thought about, hey, having that as a work from home model, right? Because part of it was that we're all sitting together, we're able to talk through the situation and provide the level of service that our customer needed. And so, you know, with the situation with COVID, it forced us to go and say, hey, what does that look like? And how do we make that same experience come to life in a work from home environment, which is quite frankly what employees want. They want to work from home. They want to have that flexibility of not commuting in, being there for their families in a much timelier manner. So as we move forward, we are going to see a hybrid workforce and bringing that to life. So I mean, yeah, the role is going to be some in the site and some at home, and that's going to be our new normal, I guess.
So I'm kind of ad-libbing here because I'm just curious, but have you seen an increase in productivity from a work from home workforce?
So it's kind of hard to tell right now. So I would say we've seen in some of our results, we've seen great movement. So like our net promoter scores are up in the 80s, and we've seen an increase there. But in some of just our efficiency metrics, it's hard to tell because customers are in a weird spot right now, right? So they're having a hard time or want to talk through some of the issues. So our talk time has gone up. And, you know, that also could be a result of, hey, being able to walk up to your employee and say, hey, what's going on? Let me help you through this call. They're also, you know, they have their kids at home. So have experienced an increase in the kids coming in, asking for help from their parents and you know, utilizing some of their auxiliary codes in order to help their kids, or be like, hey, hold on a minute, let me finish this call. So I don't think that we have like a fair view on whether long term it's going to be like more or less efficient once kids go back to school and all that. So we'll have to work through some of those things. So
Sure. I'm sure like with everything, there's things that have gone a little bit better and things that maybe haven't so much, but lots of moving parts and pieces for sure. So one other question that just came in. If I can pull it up here. What is the most surprising thing, and this is kind of open to the group, what is one of the most surprising things that you all have learned or found during the pandemic?
I'll jump in that one. A couple things. One, I think the most awesome was people's caring. Being in the hospitality business, we had a flood of people come out to support us, to support our people, to support others. I mean, we were selling casseroles at one point, and I had folks that were coming and they committed, they bought 100 casseroles every day. And they were taking them to sit outside the hospital and wait for nurses and doctors to get off work and hand them to them. So I guess just to see humanity is still there and still good. You don't see it in the press, unfortunately, sometimes as much as we should. But see that and see this community rise up like that in so many ways, that was just mind-blowing to see that. Additionally, the adaptability, I would say, for our staff, again, those that were working, and we were trying to get creative how to do that, especially with the unemployment issues and things like that, but how quickly they were willing to pivot. And it really showed how much they care about the business, how much they care about the customer, because they weren't making a lot of money doing it. And then they rose to the occasion. And so that I would say for me, it was that whole humanity piece, and just that, you know, there's so many great people out there. So.
Thanks.
I would say, I mean, not to be funny, but the importance of hand sanitizer. You know, I had sent out a promotional piece to clients in January promoting hand sanitizer, didn't hear anything. And all of a sudden, March 15th, everyone wants hand sanitizer, and we were backed up for months. I mean, like in March, people couldn't get stuff until like July and August. I mean, it just went off the shelves. So, you know, if you're looking for hand sanitizer now, it's the time to get it. Don't wait until a second wave. But just, yeah, like Tripp said, adaptability. Just being adaptability of adjusting, and I've seen a lot of businesses adjust throughout this period as well.
You had no idea how important that email would be that you sent in January, right?
Yeah, so for me, it's about I think how resilient people have become. You know, it's, as you talk about this year, no one would have ever guessed that we were going to be working from home and having like all the craziness that's happened this year between like COVID and murder hornets and like all the things that keep coming at it. Like, we have become so resilient on all the little things. So I'm so interested, I think, to see how like that carries forward on the little things as we go back to hopefully go back to normal in coming months.
Definitely. I think through all of this, you know, we all are realizing just how strong we are, and that sense of community and the sense of belonging that everyone is craving so much, just being kind and being there for one another, and doing the best that we can to continue to operate and serve our customers in the most efficient and effective way. So that concludes our session. We do not have any other questions that have come through, but we will be sharing with you all as our presenters the group of people that have attended today, as well as with our group that is on the webinar, a copy of the presentation and the contact information for our presenters if anyone thinks of anything or has a comment or question following the presentation. So thanks for joining us again. We appreciate your time. We look forward to seeing you next month at our third Thursday Business Builder, and we hope you all have a great rest of your afternoon. Thank you.
Stay safe.
Thank you.